Sorry. All right, welcome back to another episode of Working Girls Don't Gatekeep. Today we have Makayla Woytek, and I'm excited to chat with Makayla. She is someone who I met on TikTok. We were able to connect because she has a really interesting role that I think is something that's important and that I'm not very familiar with. And then I'm also excited to talk to her today about what it's like being a Gen Z working in corporate America. So, Makayla is a SEO specialist or a search engine optimization specialist and working for a really large company. So I'm excited to get to learn your story today, Makayla. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me, Nicole. I'm definitely excited to start talking about what I do and, getting more people interested in SEO.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's take a step back and tell me about one of your first jobs that you had maybe back in high school or college.
So my first job I had was actually teaching swim lessons. So I was a collegiate swimmer in college at a D3 school. So with that, during the summers, I would help coach little kids and help them just learn how to swim. And I guess that kind of led me into my college major. So with that, I was interested in nursing. Obviously, I am not a nurse now, so did a complete 180 with that. But yeah, it's swimming and starting out with, the little kids. And that's kind of how I got interested in wanting to be a pediatric nurse. But again, that did not pan out.
Sure. Yeah, well, a lot of the times life happens for the better. So, where did
Yeah.
you go to college?
I went to the University of North Georgia. So I am from Atlanta, Georgia. So my school was in Dahlonega, Georgia. And my college experience was a little bit different. So I actually commuted to my college. So lived at home and then would commute up to Dahlonega and then take my classes and then come back. So not your typical experience, but I do think it definitely helped me in the long run.
How long was your drive every day?
It was about an hour.
Oh, that's far.
Yes, but I had the pretty like mountain scenery and stuff. So it was nice in the springtime seeing like all the flowers and the mountain in the background. So
Cool. And did you do that for 4 years?
I did that for 3 years. So my first year, I was at a small private school in kind of South Georgia. And that just did not work out for me. It wasn't a good fit. So I took the leap of faith to transfer and move back home and just kind of sort some things out, which definitely I think would be in a piece of advice I would give is that if your school is not working out for you, it is okay to leave. And I was terrified to leave until I realized that like leaving was the best thing that happened to me.
Good advice. Yeah, I think one thing that like holds people back is, well, what about all my friends? How am I supposed to meet friends not as a freshman? Were you able to meet friends not only not being a freshman, but not living on campus?
Yes, I was. So North Georgia's a pretty small school, which is really nice. And especially when you get into your major courses, it's really small. So I majored in digital marketing, and they're one of the few schools in Georgia that actually has that concentration. So I was able to meet a lot of girls in my marketing classes and have a lot of group projects. And a couple of them were actually from my area, which was super cool that we could get coffee and do stuff like that outside of school.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so how did you transition from digital marketing to nursing?
So I wanted to be a nursing major, thought that was it, got into nursing school and was like, this is not for me. Like, I just wasn't thriving. It was a lot more difficult than I anticipated it being, and I loved school. So with that, I actually took a semester off of school, came back home, worked at Chick-fil-A for a little bit, and they asked me to help with some of their spirit nights and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, I actually kind of like this. Maybe I should major in it. And so that's when I decided I was going to be a marketing major. And at North Georgia, we had two concentrations. You could do digital marketing or sales. Sales is not for me. So I was like, let's try digital, and absolutely fell in love with digital marketing.
Well, so how would you describe digital marketing?
I would describe it as something new almost every day. There's so many aspects that I think goes into digital marketing that people don't necessarily realize until you're sitting in those classes. So what I mean by this, there's so many different kind of career routes you could go within this. So you could do social media, you could do influencer, PR, SEO, user experience, and then back-end engineering kind of falls into marketing as well. So there's just so many aspects that it's just so broad, I think, which is the coolest part about it, is you can touch so many different things to help grow a company or your business or even your personal brand.
So when I think of SEO, I'm thinking of like keywords that can help somebody find my page or my website or my company when they're searching Google.
Yes, yes, that is correct. But I think a lot of people don't realize that SEO kind of goes beyond that. So is Pinterest SEO, there's TikTok SEO, there's Instagram that involves SEO. So there's a lot of different ways that SEO touches different aspects of marketing, which is what I love. So right now I'm working with our social team just on some different projects. But with the ability for like Pinterest and YouTube and TikTok to rank in Google, it's so crucial, combining both of those teams together to be able to create an overall successful business or, campaign or strategy or project.
Okay, give us some tips.
Okay, so some tips. I think if you were getting into SEO, there is a ton of free online courses to take. So I would look at like HubSpot, Search Engine Roundtable has some great articles about some new releases, and then definitely some certifications. Another part of SEO is definitely the analytics side and the data and the technical side. It's kind of split into two sections. You have your creative side of SEO and then the technical side of SEO. I do more of the creative, but with the technical, learning Google Analytics 4, for example, is so crucial when it comes to tracking your users or your engagements or your sessions, just to figure out, with that data piece, how well you're doing or your brand's doing or your company or project is doing.
Okay. Now, sorry, you said there was two different ways. There was SEO social, and what were the two options?
So SEO can kind of be broken up into two large categories. So you have more of your content SEO, which is going to be your blogs, your social, that kind of aspect, very creative. And then your technical SEO, which is going to be more of how to fix broken pages or your backlinking strategy or different items like that. So I focus more on the content creative side just because I love that personally. But that's not to say I also don't work with some of the more technical stuff. Some coding is involved as well, which is kind of cool. So it's a mix of everything, which I think a lot of people don't realize.
Yeah. So you're doing this for a large company.
Yeah.
What does it look like working for a large company, and what does your day-to-day look like?
So my day-to-day looks a little different each day. So to preface, before this, I actually worked at a smaller digital marketing agency, which is completely different from corporate America. So for corporate America and the company I worked for, a lot of what I do is project-based. So I'm collaborating with a bunch of different teams to help grow a project, or if we're focusing on one initiative, I help out with that. So I work a lot with our social team, copywriting team, and merchandising team currently, just on some of the projects we're doing. But that's not to say I don't also help with some of the broken pages or, helping with those redirects and making sure our site is up for a good user experience.
So are you making content yourself? Like, are you in the office making TikToks and stuff?
I do not make TikToks, but I help with some of the blogs. So with that, I help with some of the keyword research to figure out what's trending. And then that's where our collaboration comes in with some of the social and the copywriting team.
Okay. How did you get this job in a corporate position? It seems like it's something that is pretty desirable.
Yes. So I originally gonna take it back a couple years. So I graduated during the pandemic, which was kind of scary on all honesty, especially as a new grad when the world's basically shut down, you're not sure what's happening. So with that, I applied for an internship at a marketing agency, worked there for about 2 years, and I always knew I wanted to be on the corporate side. So I think having that agency experience definitely helped me get to where I am today. And then when I was ready to make that transition, I really leveraged my connections, so LinkedIn, stuff like that, just to be able to reach out to different recruiters. And then a recruiter from my company reached out to me, and then that's how I kind of fell into this position.
It's so hard if you're not, that's exactly what you should do, is exactly like reaching out to a bunch of people, connecting with people on LinkedIn and seeing if you have first, second, third connections. Then also obviously connecting with the recruiter, because if you just fire off your resume, maybe you know better because there could be some SEO tips and tricks in here, but I swear if you just fire off your resume, it never goes anywhere.
Yes, I agree. And so I actually did leverage some SEO when applying for this job. So a little trick I learned is that when looking at different job descriptions, so I know I wanted to stay in SEO. So what I did is I compiled a bunch of companies I would ideally like to work for, looked at their job descriptions, picked out keywords, and then tailored my resume to match those keywords. So when it went through the automatic, I don't know what it's called, but the like robot that basically scans your resume, that those keywords would be highlighted. So I did use that. And then I also kept like an Excel spreadsheet of every company I applied for, who I reached out to, just so that way I could stay organized, which I think helped me a ton because I was applying to like probably 40, 50 jobs a day. So just to be able to, keep track of who I talked to, who I didn't, who I reached out to is so helpful.
So if you didn't hear back from somebody, would you like reach out again and say, hey, I sent my application?
Yes, yes. So I kind of capped myself at like 3 follow-ups, just because I think, especially as being younger, you don't want to come across as annoying in a way, but you still want to, be able to show that you do know what you're doing and that you do have the skill set. So the first time I would reach out, I'd send my resume and just let them know I applied online. Second time, I would follow up and just be like, hey, sent my resume this date, would love to speak to you. I'd wait a week or two, and then by the third time, I would send my final follow-up. And after that, I would just kind of let the job go. I have noticed that, there's a lot of company ghosting recently, especially searching for a new job. So I think having that sheet definitely kept me organized in a way that, I wasn't being too much in a sense.
Yeah, good for you to do this. What do you like the most about your job that you do?
I like that I can still be creative in my job, but then also have some of that like technical background. I was actually talking to one of my coworkers the other day because he's like, "What is SEO?" And I was like, "No, like we touch so many things." So for us, we, work with our user experience team, social team, we work with our merchandising team, copy team. So I just get to have my hand in so many different pots in a sense. And I love that it's something new every day and that I can, create a strategy and see that strategy execute through different branches and different teams to be able to make a project successful.
And do you have to reach out to like customers and have customer calls and stuff like that? Or is mainly your customer your company you work for and you're representing them?
Mainly the company I work for. So everything I do deals with the website and just more of the digital holistic view of the company. So I don't have any direct contact with any customers, but we do some A/B testing with some of the customers on the website. So that's something the customer won't see, but we'll do one landing page has one saying and different one has a different, and then look at the kind of analytics to see where we're more successful, where we're not successful, and kind of tailor a strategy to that.
Okay. Yeah, the reason that I was asking that is because you mentioned back in college, your college could either go like the sales route or a different type of marketing route. And it just made me think of like, who would this job be good for? Somebody who is really outgoing and wants to meet with new customers, or somebody who enjoys kind of just working alongside their coworkers.
I would say definitely working alongside your coworkers. It is more, I would say, for an introverted person in a sense. So at the marketing agency, I would connect with clients and talk to clients on calls. But now, kind of on the corporate side, I just connect with upper leadership, VPs, executives, stuff like that. So I definitely say it's a little bit more for someone who likes talking to people, but they don't want their entire job to revolve around that.
Okay, that's a really good differentiator. And I can imagine just knowing my experience and what an agency provides, they are working on behalf of a customer. So I can see that you're always, calling those customers and having outside conversations where here it is an entire marketing department designated for your own company.
Yes, exactly. And I will say the agency versus corporate life is so different. And I think, especially, I would say, I guess, a newer grad, making that switch, it was a little bit difficult just because the way agency expectations are versus corporate expectations, it's almost complete opposite of each other. Both are great, but definitely a little bit of a culture shock switching to corporate America versus a smaller agency.
Okay, tell me more about that.
So agency life is definitely work hard, play harder. So it's very fast paced. You can have a large client load. You're constantly talking to clients and you're working in different industries. So at my agency or my previous agency, I had clients all over the place. So they weren't all within one industry. They were spread out, such as like beauty or natural gas. So just kind of having to be an expert in a lot of different areas versus corporate. It's a little bit more, I wouldn't say slower, but you're only working on one brand. So it's a lot easier to, put your hands in one pot of just focusing on the one brand, making sure this one brand is being successful, kind of versus the agency where you're all over the place a little bit.
Yeah. So, you mentioned earlier before that you want to talk more about what it's like to be a Gen Z in corporate. Can you touch on that a little?
Yes, I think going into corporate America, we all have expectations, especially I think those of us who did graduate during the pandemic. It is a little hard, making the switch. So before I was all remote, all my classes my senior year were remote, and now I'm completely in person 4 days a week. So I think there is a little bit of a struggle at first, just learning how to speak to people again, learning how to, present yourself as knowledgeable and professional in a manner that you didn't necessarily have to do before. Because it's one thing presenting a project on Zoom versus another thing presenting a project in front of, a board of executives, with them all looking at you. So I think that was a little bit of a struggle for me when I first started out, but it has definitely grown my confidence in a way that I don't think it would have before. So yeah.
So kind of having to prove yourself in front of older generations and I can remember that like right when I graduated, I always felt that I was like so young. Everyone's like, you're so young, you just graduated. And as if that was like putting me down.
Yes, yeah. It can be definitely a little challenging sometime. And obviously no one's like outright said that, but I think, especially as women, we do have that insecurity that we're not enough. And I think
Mhm.
age definitely plays a factor into that. When you are the youngest on your team, or you might not be the most knowledgeable, that I think we definitely overthink the skill sets we have when in reality, we are qualified for the job, that we wouldn't have gotten it if we weren't qualified.
Yeah, for sure. I remember when I first graduated, it was such a shock for me to go from kind of a flexible work, school experience to now working 5 days a week, 40 hours a week. I felt kind of trapped. So what was that transition like for you?
The transition was actually really rough for me. So I lived at home for a little bit after I graduated just because rent in Atlanta is so expensive that it's impossible to live by yourself here. So I think I felt very isolated at first, especially my agency previously was fully remote. So I did not leave my house. I like didn't get out much. So it definitely was isolating, didn't have a ton of friends, but when I switched to this new job, I ended up living in Atlanta. I made a good girl group. So I think it just depends on like where you're at and kind of how you take it things to move forward.
I know everybody wants to work fully remote, but the friends that I've made in my jobs that I am in person, at least a couple days a week, are like memories that I totally cherish. It's so convenient to work from home and, not take a shower till lunchtime or all of that is great. But especially I moved to a new state and a new city and I haven't met anybody because I don't work outside the house. So there is something to be said about having a job that requires you to go in office a couple days a week.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I realized that working remote was not for me. So I went fully remote to 4 days in person and then Fridays remote. And when I was working remote, I really struggled. I would say I'm more of like an extroverted, introverted person. So I love talking to people, but I also need my alone time. So working remote and being alone all the time definitely took a toll on my mental health. And so switching to in person 4 days a week, there's just something about getting up, doing your hair, doing your makeup, like driving to the office, and then just kind of being able to end your day at 5 versus before. I would sometimes work till 8, 9 o'clock at night just because I didn't know when to stop my day.
Yeah, yeah. How do you handle your work-life balance and how do you separate? Because sometimes it's like 5 days feels so long and I feel like I don't accomplish anything in the middle of the workday.
Yeah, so my work-life balance has actually been really well since switching to corporate. So I will say with corporate America, work-life balance, at least with my company, is really great. So at 5 o'clock, I shut my computer off, leave my computer at the office. I don't even bring it home with me, which is so good because I'm also working on my MBA. So juggling a lot of things right now, being a full-time student, working full-time, still trying to have a social life. So I think with that, definitely keeping my calendar and my agenda. And then on Fridays, I try to schedule all my meetings earlier in the week. So when I do work remote on Fridays, it's a little bit of a lighter day and I'm not, scrambling to meet my deadlines by the end of the week.
Yeah. And then Friday can just be a little more chill.
Yes, yes. Like today, I'm like, oh, I can breathe.
Yeah, good. So I want to well, one other question that I have for you is what is a normal career path for somebody in a position like this?
Yeah, so I think for SEO, it could honestly go a couple ways. So the career path I took was going from an intern to then a specialist. So that is one way to do it. But I think you could also take at it from a different perspective. There are so many online courses and different materials that you can find just to help grow your knowledge in SEO. So I think if you already have a digital marketing background and this is something you're interested in, I would definitely go ahead and try to apply for that associate role or that specialist role, just because things overlap so much that you're not going to be completely lost or, not have a chance of getting a job like this.
Okay, and then you also mentioned you're getting your MBA. Tell me why you want to get your MBA and in what field?
So I am just getting my generic master's. I'm doing it online. So with the program I'm doing, you can't concentrate in like marketing or anything with the online program. So mine's just my master's of business administration. And I love school and I love learning. So that is why I'm partly getting it. But I also want to be a VP or a director at some point down the line in my career. And so having this, extra education, I think is definitely going to be a benefit for me. Um, Kind of like going back, I had a mentor, which highly recommend if anybody as a young professional finding a mentor. I know in Atlanta we have AMA, which is our Atlanta Marketing Association. Great place if you're in marketing and just want to talk to somebody. But with that, I met with my mentor and kind of told her, I'd love to be a VP or an executive, but how do I get there? So that's how we kind of broke down the steps and realized that, getting my MBA would be beneficial for me to end up in a role later like that.
Okay. So you're hoping to stay in kind of the corporate SEO world.
Yes, corporate SEO, corporate marketing. Definitely love marketing and it's not going away. And it's constantly evolving. So definitely staying in the marketing realm, not maybe necessarily SEO, but like I said, SEO, it touches so many things that you're kind of not just segmented to only doing SEO, that if I wanted to branch out, at this point, I do have enough knowledge from the work I've done in SEO to maybe take a different direction in my career.
Sure. Okay, I want to pause here for something fun.
Okay.
I mean, this is fun, but I just mean like a pop culture moment, I guess. So pausing for a pop culture moment, what is something that you are loving and something that you would recommend to friends? Maybe a show or a place to shop or a podcast or a book or something.
Oh gosh. Okay. So the show, I'm definitely been into The Bachelor recently, so I don't know if you've been keeping up with it, but I'm not going to say any spoilers. Love it and was a little disappointed with the fantasy suite, so anxious to see the next episode. And then I'm not a huge reader, so I don't have a book or anything. But yeah, I'm like trying to think.
No, I
I think
have
it's
plenty
The
to talk about The
Bachelor.
Bachelor. Nobody
Yeah.
brought up The Bachelor on this podcast yet, except for the Golden Bachelor, but we haven't talked about Joey's season. So now is our time. I'm so excited. I watched The Bachelor, love it. I always have watched The Bachelor, and then I stopped for a long time. I didn't watch Charity's season. So to see Joey, I just think he's so cute and he's sweet and he seems like a real genuine guy. And I have my picks of who I think he should date.
Me too. I love The Bachelor, and my friend group and I actually do Bachelor Mondays. So we all like switch
Fun.
apartments and we watch The Bachelor together, and we have our Bachelor like bracket. I don't know if you've heard of it. I forget the name, but like you can rank the girls and earn different points. So kind of cool March Madness twist, but like Bachelor edition.
That's so much fun. I love that you get together with girlfriends. So if anybody's listening, we're about to share spoilers. So turn it off if you haven't listened to The Bachelor of this week. But here's my thoughts. So we just had the fantasy suite. I've loved Daisy this entire time. I got the biggest ick this week. I cannot pinpoint it, but I'm like, she is giving me the ick. She can't be it.
Yes, me too. And I think so. A lot of my friend group and I were all in marketing, and we were like analyzing the TV show. So, hate to spoil anybody, but the way we were looking at it is we're like, Rachel didn't get a ton of airtime. So, we think she's going home because they gave Kelsey so much airtime, like looking at it from a marketing
Yeah.
perspective. So we're like, it's either going to be Kelsey or Daisy. Final two are our predictions. And honestly, I'm kind of pulling for Kelsey just because I feel like all the signs are there that they're gonna make her the winner. And I feel like Daisy could be a potential bachelorette. Good
I
addition.
feel the same way.
Yeah.
He also didn't say I love you to Rachel. So that's a red flag for me for the
Yeah.
show. To be honest, I agree with exactly what you said, but that's not his wife.
Yeah.
I don't think they're gonna stay together. Like I think I really liked Jen for him, the girl he went on a surfing date back in
Yeah.
California. Loved her for him. I think he should not have kicked her off. And I also really liked Maria because Maria broke him out of his shell and like made him do kind of fun, exciting things. She's immature, 100% she's immature. Um, but he's the type of guy who I feel like is so content and comfortable in where he is. Maria made him go outside his comfort zone.
Yeah, I agree. So probably like a hot topic, but I would love to see Maria's Bachelorette. I think it would be so entertaining, just the way like they've kind of played her story. Like, I think that would make for great TV, and I would watch her season, but a lot of people disagree with that.
Entertaining is the perfect word. Like
Yes.
if you want good entertainment TV, Maria's got to be the Bachelorette. But I think it will be Daisy because she's kind of like a sweet hometown hero. But I'm like Kelsey, no offense. I just think Joey is like the hottest guy. And I think Kelsey is kind of like giving this is her first boyfriend vibes.
Yes. I also think that the girls are way too young. So, not to like out my age, but I'm 25, and the fact that there are girls younger than me on this show, I'm like, I could not even think about getting married right now at 25. I'm like, I don't know how some of these like 22 and 23 and 24-year-olds are on the show, like expecting that.
I know. Like to see a 23-year-old, it's like, sis, you've got so much dating time. Like you will find another good guy in the next or like 7 years, where it's like if they're 27, 28, they've gone through some serious breakups, I could see.
Mhm.
So it makes more sense. But 23 is like just graduated.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And I am like kind of experience that a little bit in my friend group right now. So a lot of the girls are like getting engaged and stuff. Mind you, I do live in the South. So I actually saw a TikTok the other day, and it was like, are you really behind, or do you just live in the South? And I was like, no, I just live in Georgia. Like I just live in the South.
I'm from the Midwest and it's the same thing. Everybody marries their college sweetheart.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I'm like, you're 22. Like, you have so much more to live for. But no hate to anybody who's engaged at 22. But I don't know. It's just a very Southern thing to get married super young.
Yeah. Okay, that was fun. I'm glad we got to talk about The Bachelor.
Yes, me too.
So kind of switching back to career stuff,
Mhm.
what is a piece of advice that you as a working girl won't gatekeep for other working girls?
I think the biggest thing for me, especially being, a little bit on the younger side in corporate America, Gen Z, all of that, is don't be afraid to ask questions and it's okay to put yourself out there. So, what I mean by that is with my first job, I was so scared to speak up and ask the questions, but you're not going to learn and grow if you don't ask those questions. And in all honesty, nothing's a dumb question. Like, I'll go to my boss all the time and I'm like, hey, this might be a dumb question. She's like, no question is dumb. If you're asking a question, you're wanting to learn. So I think not to be scared to ask questions and then also just to be confident in yourself. And I know that's a little bit harder, to do. It's easier to say than do, but I felt like, especially, switching from an agency to corporate, that confidence is definitely key. And when you come off more confident, I feel like not that people respect you more, but they don't look at you as, a younger Gen Z in America, corporate America, or, someone younger in the workforce. They look at you almost as an equal. So I'd say definitely confidence and not being afraid to ask those questions, even if it might seem dumb. Someone else probably has the same question. So.
Yeah. It's okay, perfect example here. Like you confidently asked to connect with me for this podcast and look at the opportunities that it created for both of us. So, there could have been imposter syndrome at a certain point in your thought process, but you put yourself out there and we were able to connect and I learned a lot and I had fun talking to you. So,
Yes, yeah, for sure. That was actually so every year, like going into the new year, I like write my list of like goals for the year, not resolutions, like totally different, like goals of what I want to can like do in my personal life and then like my professional life. And my professional life was actually like putting myself out there more, speaking more, taking those opportunities I would have been scared to do. So when I saw your TikTok, it's like, nope, I'm gonna put myself out there and I'm gonna do it.
love it. You can cross that one off the list.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. I also do a lot of goal setting and things like that. And I'm not sure if you have ever heard of this, but there's a website called futureme.com.
Oh, I haven't.
I love it. So it's basically the ability to like write yourself a letter and it will automatically send on the date that you want it to. So I always do one every year on my birthday, I write one, and then next birthday I get it. Then I do one like every quarter and then every 6 months or something. So I have like a couple that populate throughout the year, and you can't see the letter once you write it until 6 months from now or whatever. So there's a free version. That's the one that I use. I'm sure there's a paid version too. But futureme.com is really fun because then, like 6 months from now, you're like, oh, I forgot I was stressed about this situation, or I forgot I wanted a new pair of shoes. And look at, I've worn these shoes for 6 months or something. So something to check out.
Yeah, that is so cool. I'm definitely gonna look into that because I am very big on goals and routines and, just kind of being that better version of myself. So yeah, I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah, it's a fun email when it comes in. Cool. Okay, well, anything else you'd like to share with us today?
Um, I don't think so, but I definitely enjoyed, being on the podcast. And obviously, if there's any SEO questions, anybody can feel free to reach out. I love to help, love to kind of be that mentor to maybe some college grads or, newer people in the workforce since I literally just did that a couple years ago. So yeah.
What's the best way they can contact you?
Um, so you can do my LinkedIn, which is just Makayla Woytek, or my Instagram. I not very like corporate but I do post some fun pictures on there, and that's just at Makayla Woytek.
Okay, perfect. I will post both of those in the show notes. And if they want to reach out to you, ask more about what it's like to transition from, an agency to corporate, or if they wanted to connect with you on LinkedIn and possibly there is like a position open in the future, it'd be great for you guys to connect.
Yes, yeah, I love talking and connecting with students. Like I said, I think it's so hard, especially as women, you know, taking that graduation step and not knowing who to reach out to. Like it's so intimidating sometimes to have someone to be like, yes, I can talk to her, I can connect with her. I'd definitely love to be that for anybody listening, or, you know, any new grads or, you know, college students listening.
Cool. Okay, well, this was great. Thanks so much for coming on, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, Nicole.
Bye.